Boo bitches! Welcome to episode 113 of C3 Crystals, Cauldrons, and Cocktails. I'm River.
And I'm Ren.
And today we're going to be talking about quantum reality and witchcraft. I know, that's over my head too. This is definitely more in Ren's wheelhouse than mine. I'm excited to learn about it though. But before that, we want to say we hope you guys all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We are actually recording this pre-Thanksgiving, and Ren and her husband are coming over the day after Thanksgiving. So we're going to have like a Friendsgiving. My kids are very excited.
Yes.
So blessed be to all of you. We hope that you enjoy all the food and laughter this weekend. We hope that this is a wonderful holiday for everybody. Next, what are we drinking?
Something fun.
Yeah. So this week we are having the Hot Whiskey Witch. It's very, very sweet. I know that Ren likes it more than I do, and neither one of us are big whiskey fans, but I must say this is pretty good. And it's warm, so it's very, very cozy. It has Irish whiskey, Irish cream liqueur, butterscotch schnapps, hence the very, very sweetness, and then you make it with coffee. You put all of that into coffee.
It's delicious.
And then my mouth is watering. You put whipped cream on top of it and you drizzle it with caramel, and it is so, so delish.
It's amazing.
Okay, it is. So let's jump into quantum reality and witchcraft.
Yes. So quantum reality and witchcraft are two very different and distinct topics that come from they come from different domains, and you're kind of like, what the heck? Why are we talking about these two things? They're not related, blah, blah, blah. Yes and no.
But they are. Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. So with witchcraft, it's rooted in folklore, spirituality, and magical practices, while quantum reality is a scientific framework describing the behavior of particles on a quantum level. So some individuals and groups have attempted to draw connections between the two, and seemingly they're just very different realms, right?
Right.
And so often in that realm of metaphysics or speculative philosophy, there's some sort of connection. Okay.
And I didn't know when you suggested this topic, I was like, what?
It's cool and interesting.
After doing the research, it really I think witchcraft is quantum physics.
You're gonna be sitting there, either you're cleaning, either you're in your car, you're doing whatever. You're gonna be going, what in the fuck are these people talking about? You're gonna actually contemplate going, after this episode, will I ever listen to them again? I don't know.
I think it's fascinating. And it took Ren I never, ever thought quantum reality, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, that stuff is way, way over my head. But the more we talk about it, the more fascinating it becomes. And the more I think it really is witchcraft.
I feel like, well, anyways, let's just get into it a little bit more.
Okay.
So it's essential to recognize that these connections are often subject interpretations.
Okay, so this whiskey shit's really good, guys.
Interpretations rather than establishing it in scientific principles. Stay with me. Okay. So, witchcraft is a broad term that encompasses various magical and spiritual practices. And it has a rich history across multiple cultures and time periods, often involving rituals, spells, and manipulation of natural energies to bring about desired outcomes.
Yeah, I agree. I think witchcraft is based on the belief that individuals have this power to manipulate energy. Some people call it energy. We talk about this all the time. Some call it other things. To me, I have always called it energy. And we use that energy to shape our reality through intention and action. To me, that's witchcraft.
Yes. And so based on these beliefs, practitioners of witchcraft may believe in a variety of spiritual and metaphysical kind of stay with me right there.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind. That's what I mean. Metaphysical concepts such as, interconnectedness of all things, the power of intention, and the presence of energies that can be harnessed for magical purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a little bit into that where witchcraft is not a monolithic practice.
Right.
It can vary widely among, these traditions, these cultures. For Wicca and Wicca, for example, it is a modern pagan religion that incorporates witchcraft into its rituals and beliefs. So stay with me.
Yeah. I mean, we've constantly said that witchcraft is about intent. I mean, that comes across, it's all about intent, but really, I think for the purpose of this particular episode, it's important to note that it is our intent that's shaping and manifesting the world around us. So it's really about grappling with and handling these energies that are around us and modifying those with our intent. So intent is there, but what we're actually physically doing is on a metaphysical level.
On a different level. Yes.
Yeah.
So now that we talked a little bit about witchcraft, let's talk about, what is quantum reality? What is quantum mechanics? So to kind of break it down in a simpler version, it is a branch of physics, which I love physics.
You do. Yeah.
That deals with behavior of small particles such as, atoms or subatomic particles. So when I think about it, I think about particles of dust. It's easy to think about it like that because you can't see atoms, you can't see these things. But if you think about it as a small speck of dust, it's physical. You can interpret that. So whenever I think about this, and this is what got me through physics a lot when talking about it, was dust particles.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a good analogy. I think, yes, you're right. Quantum reality, quantum mechanics, it is a cutting edge field of modern science, and it explores the behavior of subatomic particles and the physical theories that describe their behavior. So like you were talking about these particles of dust, we're going infinitely smaller than that.
Absolutely.
I mean, not infinitely, I suppose, but
a lot of people, like even when I first started studying physics, when I was taking physics courses and all of that in school, you can't fathom something that you can't see. You know
that movie, the Marvel movie with Ant-Man, and how they went sub, and I can't remember which one of the movies it was. I'm way behind on that series, but I know Ant-Man's girlfriend, I'm not sure. Anyway, her mother had gotten lost because she had gotten so small it was impossible to come back out again. That is quantum mechanics on a very simplistic level. But we're talking about energy. Everything goes down to these small little levels, and we're talking about energy on those levels when you're talking about quantum reality.
Yes. So quantum reality itself describes a phenomena that often defy classical intuition, such as superposition, entanglement, or wave particle duality.
Yeah, that's way over my head.
Okay. And so quantum mechanics has been incredibly successful in explaining the behavior of particles at the microscopic level. That's the basic, quantum mechanics is what happens at that very small level. It's what those particles do, it's what happens to them, etc. So, however, its principles can be challenging to kind of, reconcile with our everyday experiences. So often they are, deviated from the classical physics, they're within physics, but there's a little
they're kind of fringe. The fringe of physics. You've got the scientists that are like, this is the way it is within this box. And then you've got the quantum physicists who are like, yeah, but that box is really a circle. I mean, it's just crazy.
I feel like one of the other things that I feel connects these two is that science is based on a lot of theories, especially when it comes to physics and outer world physics, where, we have light years, we have etc., we have time, we have all of that, but we're all on Earth, so everything is based on Earth, but when you take physics and you put it outside of Earth, it does not qualify, right? So, I feel like that's what it is with witchcraft too. You can,
I agree.
There's people who are like, oh, witchcraft isn't real, or your crystals and everything don't mean anything, but you can also say that in the same thing about science and the theories and everything based in that. It's the theories are based in science, but they're not proven. You cannot prove them unless if you are outer worldly, like let's say astronomy wise.
I think that's a good way to put it. I think the quantum level is they're trying to prove it, whereas on the witch level, we're just doing it.
Yeah, we're just here. We're just experimenting, ourselves in a non-scientific way. Or you could be doing it scientifically.
Okay.
So some argue that the non-locality, or there's no it's not local, basically, and it's not, and the interconnectedness, observed at that quantum entanglement could be different to the interconnective emphasized in the spiritual practices. So some argue that there's no correlation between metaphysics or physics in general with anything spiritual or witchcraft.
I mean, to me, it makes sense that they are connected, because as witches, we manipulate these very same energies that quantum mechanics watches. So quantum mechanics is about watching the energies and see what they do and exploring, and witchcraft is all about actually using those energies to make them do what we want to do. So I feel like in some ways we're a step above, or a step ahead, maybe is the right way to put it, of the science, because they're trying to prove it and we're just using it. I think we are manipulating.
All witches are physicists.
I mean, for real, because what are we doing?
Physicists.
When we cast a spell, we are manipulating the energies. And so the quantum physics is looking at that manipulation on a microscopic level, which I think we're doing intuitively, whereas witches, we just do it. So I mean, it's interesting to me.
It's interesting to me too. I really like the stuff, and then to be able to combine it with another thing that's interesting to me is cool.
Especially these two things that you would never think are really related, but
I feel like a lot of stuff is like that. I feel like everything's connected to one another in certain ways, So let's explore a little bit. And I know we've talked about history of witchcraft, but a little bit more,
Okay.
I guess not more, just touch bases with what we've talked about before.
Reemphasize.
So, like the history of witchcraft is ancient and diverse, with many roots and various cultures from around the world. So practices that could be, considered magical or witch-like date prehistoric times, as we know, like healers and medical people. I know I'm not look, I'm over here not messing up a word in quantum physics, and then I get to normal, like, oh yeah, witchcraft, and I start messing up my words.
Oh, I have to say, I know we're trying to keep this short because the holidays are coming and we both have to cook and do all these things. But I just finished season 2 of the Wheel of Time, and the way magic works in that world is just fascinating. And it does, you're pulling all of this stuff out of the earth and manipulating it. So it's just fascinating to look at what I had a point, but I don't know what it is now.
At how cool magic is and how it can be
It's
interpreted.
just very cool, and that show is very cool, and you all ought to watch it. Let's just leave it at that and move on. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, it's okay. So we know that the history of witchcraft is in, like, there's ancient societies, we have individuals who believed that they could possess like a special spiritual or magical ability, and sometimes they were often revered or feared.
Oh, for sure.
And so then, you have the medieval and early modern Europe times where the popular image of witches were persecuted and burned at the stake, hung, what have you, in this time period. And that was about the 15th to 18th centuries when, the witch hunts were fueled by religious, social, and political factors. The accusations of witchcraft were often used as a means to control or eliminate individuals deemed as threats to establish order.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we kind of get into the 20th century where a revival of witchcraft occurred, and that's where we have the writings of the Gerald Gardner, who is often credited with founding modern day Wicca around the 1950s, where Wicca, like I said earlier before, is a contemporary pagan religion movement that incorporates elements of witchcraft, but they also worship nature, they have ritual magic, etc. And they have rules, sets of rules.
I have a comment because scientists, I feel like, so you've got Wicca, that is a religion, whereas not all of us that practice magic are religious. That it doesn't have to be a religion, but you have, say, Wicca or whatever religion. There are pagan religions as well that practice that way. But I would like to make the comment that I feel like some scientists view science almost as a religion as well.
I could agree with that. I could agree with that. A lot of people make, scientists specifically who they live, eat, breathe science. They could easily make it part of what they believe.
It's like they almost worship it to a degree.
Which I could see that because science is, well, I mean, I used to be like that where I was like, science is everything. Which science is everything, but not in the way that I used to think about it, and not in the way that some people do think about it.
Yeah, it's not your religion anymore.
Yeah, no, where like, oh, I don't believe in anything I cannot physically see. That's science, fact, blah. And it gets a little bit more into that, but I do agree, like some people do make it everything to them.
Which, especially on a quantum level where you can't see it. So you've got scientists who say, I've got to see this to be real. But on the quantum level, you can't see a subatomic particle.
That's kind of where I think that it kind of diverts on the quantum physics side versus like somebody else in a different scientific field side.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't mean to go off on that tangent.
I'm just telling you a little bit of history. We already know. We've heard this a jillion times.
Yeah.
Jillian, a gajillion.
A billionaire. What is those commercials? What are those? Anyway.
I don't know. Anyway.
Gagillionaire. Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So, and then today we have witchcraft that is practiced in various forms, worldwide still, and where modern witches draw inspiration from these ancient traditions, folklore, and or create their own new practices based on personal belief, based on anything else. And so many also emphasize the celebration of nature, cycles of the moon, and use rituals and spells for personal and spiritual growth, which I agree. So now a little bit of history in quantum mechanics. So in the late 19th century, the foundations of quantum mechanics were laid as in the late 19th century. Wow. As physicists grappled with the behavior of light and matter. So there was a scientist, Max Planck. It's German. I think it's German. Don't quote me on that. I tried to look up a pronunciation and it Planck something. Okay. Worked on the black body radiation in the 1900s, where it was introduced the concept of energy, quantized energy.
That's cool.
And the marking of the beginning of the quantum theory. So the early 1900s.
Okay.
So then we have Einstein. We all know Einstein,
Yes.
E equals MC squared type of vibe.
Yes.
Okay. And he also worked on the photoelectric effect in 1905. So he tries to explain with the photoelectric effect that quantum theory what existed by proposing that light consists of discrete packets of energy called photons. We all know what photons are.
Yes.
So this is kind of the beginning of
how
understanding
crazy
that.
How does somebody that doesn't have our scientific background come up with that? I mean, I know he was brilliant and all that, but that's just crazy.
He could all be all science could be Looney Tunes, and we're just kind of following it blindly.
But they prove it. That's the thing about science, is that it can be proven. So
yeah, no, and I think it's super cool. But how is it proven? And how, it's very.
I just
cool,
don't know how he came up with it. Yeah, it is mind-boggling.
I mean, you have to understand, in the early 1900s and in the late 1800s, we all had this idea of like, okay, where does light come from? How do we harness it? All of that. And so you just have people and scientists such as Einstein that furthers their, instead of just going, and then going about their day, he actually did something about it and looked into it.
Tells you that they were beyond the needs, the basic needs of shelter, food. The only way that science and all of that can be gotten to is if you no longer starving to death and no longer need shelter.
You're beyond the needs to survive needs, and you're thriving. So now we move on to what's called the Bohr's model of 1913, where Niels Bohr developed this model of the atom. And I feel like we all know, like, as soon as I explain Bohr's model, you're like, that sounds kind of familiar. But as soon as you understand that it's the model of the atom, you're like, oh yeah, I remember learning that in maybe high school or middle school or college. So, upon that model, they started incorporating this kind of idea of energy levels for electrons.
Okay.
And so I'm talking basic science, like
I remember
like electrons, protons,
I remember learning
all of that. And so this model specifically explained the spectral lines of hydrogen, which is super cool.
Right.
And so off of that, we move into the 1920s, where we have wave-particle duality. So this is where we saw the development of wave particles, and this suggested that particles moved. And so, like electrons exhibited in the Bohr's model and everything, it all connects with how things move together and synchronously. And so they both exhibit wave and particle properties.
Okay.
Over
my head. Okay.
Stay with me. It's kind of like a really cool explanation that supports the Bohr's model, and then it goes a little bit deeper and explains that particles such as the electrons exhibit the same behaviors.
Okay.
So now we get into 1927.
There's a lot going on pretty quickly there.
There is.
That's within a matter of years. They're actually. That's interesting.
Where a scientist named Werner Heisenberg formulated the uncertainty principle that states that certain pairs of properties like momentum, which is very important in physics, and position cannot be precisely known simultaneously. So there are things that occur scientifically that happen, but they cannot happen at the same time.
That hurts my brain.
I know. And so this challenged classical notions of what was called determinism. Yes.
Okay.
So that challenged a lot of what we knew in science and changed. So you have to understand, witchcraft is also happening at this time. It's all happening where I think in the 20s, that's where there was another revival, and we have a whole like spiritual, and a whole ton of people were doing seances, but also on the side, they were also doing experiments like this that were showing that science and things that we can't see to the eye are basic building blocks of what we are.
And I bet the circles that these scientists were in are not the same circles as the occultists were in.
Very different, probably. And there was probably only a few that kind of like, happened at the same time.
Yeah.
That were a part of both groups. I would have been a part of both groups. I know I would have. And so
you would have been burned at the stake a long time ago, girl.
Yeah, you're right. And so then we get into and I can't pronounce this person's name. Schrodinger,
which Schrodinger's cat is that the same Schrodinger?
Not sure.
Where you
I think so. Yes.
when you put the cat in the box and
I think so. You're onto something there. I think it
Okay.
is. I think it is. Where Schrodinger's wave equation, this happened 1 year after the uncertainty principle.
Okay.
So where Erwin Schrodinger, however you pronounce it, developed a mathematical formula of quantum mechanics known as the Schrodinger equation, providing a wave-based description of particle behavior. So I know it's all over everybody's head, even mine in some places. But this is basically just the history of the building blocks of us understanding
quantum theory,
particle behavior, and how. And my brain's hurting on how I'm even going to try to connect it to witchcraft, but on how things actually work on a basic level instead of trying to look at it and at an overall thing, just like we live, we breathe, we eat, we, sleep. That's all on a basic level. So understanding that our particles and everything make us up is, I don't know. It's just so cool.
I mean,
it's just like the more
we're
basic.
on the macro level, and
yes.
quantum is on the micro, sub-micro level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I still feel like they're actually the same thing. And I didn't even know about this until you suggested this topic, but I feel like witchcraft and quantum mechanics are the same thing, except for the scientists observe it and we do it.
Yeah, exactly. And then like in the 1960s, mid 20th century, experiments of the quantum level and formulation of Bell's theorem expanded the understanding of the interconnectedness between nature and the quantum side.
Witchcraft is nature. I see.
This is kind of where it starts to really unfold in the 1960s, but I needed to explain everything that led up to that.
Yeah, because I mean, I didn't know any of this stuff.
I mean, there's so many
I took
theorems.
basic science. I took physics in high school, but it was not. If it had any of this information, I don't remember it.
No, I mean, it's all basic theorems and basically old dudes trying to figure out if this worked and that didn't work and all of that.
See, how is that any different than a philosopher?
It's no different.
Because they have theories too. Except for on the science side, they try to prove it. They do experiments to make it.
They do multiple experiments and test it. Yes. And so the idea that quantum reality and witchcraft somehow intersect or, meet each other is often speculated and falls more within the realm of like philosophical or metaphysical discussions.
That makes sense. That's what
Yes.
Okay.
And so, it's all observed. It's all blah, blah, blah. I put it more scientific term phrase and all of that. And so now let's get into like the interconnectedness of where it all begins. Because now I talked about the history of witchcraft, and then now I'm going to talk about how,
the interconnectedness of it all. Okay.
And so quantum entanglement is the phenomena where particles become connected in such a way that the state of one particle is directly related to the other, regardless of distance between them.
That's crazy.
And I would say that that's the exact same thing with witchcraft.
I think so too, especially like dream magic and that kind of stuff. We talked about how once you connect on the dream plane or whatever, you're still connected, even though you're separated by true distance in this realm.
Exactly. I like to think of the most thing that is very connected between quantum reality and witchcraft is astral projecting.
Yes.
I feel like, we talk about that tether, I think of that tether a lot, and that tether in my head is that connectedness, regardless of distance. We're still connected to our, physical state versus our astral state. And that's where, and then that tether is that thin line of, all the little particles that are made up of us and everything around us. So some people draw parallels between the interconnectedness at the quantum level, and some people emphasize it on the spiritual and magical practices. It just depends on what you lean more a little bit into. So many practitioners of witchcraft believe in the interconnectedness of all things, which valid is very true. And that's exactly what quantum reality is. And so this is the suggestion that energy and intentions work with influence and can influence everything around them.
See, it's the same. It's the same thing.
It's exactly the same.
Did you play the computer game, or I think we've talked about this before, or watch the series The Last of Us?
I have seen The Last of Us, yes.
That fungus that kind of interconnects over long distances.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of makes me think of this. I think that's kind of that's a macro level thing in we could see the fungus and all of that. But I think it's a good analogy to what we're talking about the micro level of connectivity. So think about how that fungus in that show is connected for miles and miles, being the same thing as on the micro level.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah.
And then now let's get a little bit into consciousness and observation, because witchcraft is you have to have good consciousness. You have to understand what is going on, what you're doing, and all of that. And then you also have to have the observation where, we always tell you to have a journal.
Absolutely.
It's super important to observe what happens so you can write it down and understand why it happened. And so on the quantum level, the role of observation in quantum is a well-known aspect. Like that's one of the big things. You observe and you track and you understand. And then you also observe what and how it can influence the outcome of any quantum system, or be described by an observer of effect, cause and effect of what the quantum particles are doing. Same thing with witchcraft, but in a witchcraft way, where some individuals propose that the power of consciousness and intent of what you're doing aligns with the idea that conscious plays a significant role in shaping our reality. And so, as suggested by quantum principles,
that's the same thing.
It's the exact same thing. I wonder if
at some point witchcraft might be found to be science. We just don't know it yet.
Oh, see, I could see that. It's just like, I feel like the only reason it hasn't been developed, it hasn't been researched, it hasn't been proposed, is because witchcraft has that bad stigma around it.
Yeah, it's fringe as well, just the same as quantum physics is kind of fringe, and frowned upon. So maybe the two of us together can, I really do think that once we understand quantum mechanics better, we might go, oh, well, that's what we've been doing all along, is manipulating this energy on a subatomic level to manifest what our intentions are.
Yeah, exactly. And then I know we talked a little bit about non-locality and energy manipulation already, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip down to the reality as perception. Because I just don't want to be a broken record like how I usually am. And so
you are not.
I always am.
Listening
I always
to you.
say the same thing. I'm like, oh yeah. Anyways,
I think you are super fascinating, don't you guys? I think she is amazing.
I'm
super smart.
Everybody's gonna need to take a Tylenol after this one.
Yeah, you are hurting my brain.
But as reality as perception, where in quantum reality, the idea that reality is influenced by the observer and is in some sense subjective to a concept explored in interactions of like quantum mechanics, but I want to say just interactions in general.
Okay.
And then also on the witchcraft level, some practitioners believe in the power of perception and the subjective nature of reality. And so emphasizing the importance of one's mindset and belief in magical practices is the exact same as the quantum reality version.
Yeah. See, guys, I before I started this research, I had no idea. And the more I researched, the more I'm like, witchcraft is quantum entanglement. It is quantum reality.
It's quantum physics, quantum reality. It's everything.
But let's look at, okay, so knowing all of that stuff that hurt my brain,
all the blah,
how do we use it in witchcraft? So basically, we're trying to align with the idea that consciousness and intention can influence reality in both quantum physics and magical practices. So before engaging in magical rituals or spells, practitioners might focus on setting clear intentions, visualizing their desired outcomes, and channeling positive energy. This is stuff we have talked about over and over and over again. It's just that now with the quantum physics behind it, we're like, oh, we're doing science.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we want to use it for healing. So by using intention and visualization techniques from witchcraft, we can direct energy to a specific part of the body and help promote healing and wellness. Use of visualization techniques to focus on healing physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of our body all at the same time. That goes directly to what quantum physics is. We can use visualization techniques to entangle the energy of our physical body with the energy of our emotions and spirit, which create a more integrated and holistic healing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you're using quantum physics. We're going down to the micro level of energy to do that. So by using these principles of quantum tunneling, so to speak, which this blew my mind when I was like, what is quantum tunneling? We can extend the duration of a healing spell. And this kind of reminds me of our episode on time, where we talked about time and manipulating time. I think that we might actually be able to do that using quantum mechanics. So if you use this quantum tunneling, we can extend the duration of a healing spell, promote long-term wellness in a person. So like, for example, we can visualize the energy of our healing spell as tunneling through time, promoting healing and wellness for years to come. And that, I've always thought of that as just magic, but it's using quantum physics to do it. We can use quantum physics in spell casting. So this whole concept of time tunneling time, we can extend the duration of a spell to make it more powerful, not just healing. We can visualize the energy of the spell as it's going through time, extending its duration, making it more effective. We can create spells that are super powerful if we're using quantum mechanics. Once we understand how to do it, I think a lot of us do it automatically. But once science and magic combine, I feel like we can be even more powerful as witches. We can use visualization techniques to direct the energy to specific areas of our life. So not just, think about whatever spell you want to cast. Usually there's a reason for it. I need money, I need health, I need whatever. Using quantum mechanics and this visualization technique, you can direct that energy to those specific areas and make those spells more powerful and effective. Which leads me to manifestation, which is your thing. You are much better at manifestation than I am.
Kind of.
So there's a concept called the arrow of time in quantum mechanics, and we can manipulate time and accelerate the manifestation process. Wouldn't that be great?
It would be.
Instead of saying, oh, I've cast the spell, how long is it going to take to manifest? You can use quantum mechanics and this arrow of time to manifest it sooner. You can visualize energy fields, manipulate energy flows, or work with the idea that intentions can influence the energy at a non-local level, similar to the interconnectedness thing that you were talking about with quantum entanglement. We can visualize the outcome we desire as already being a reality, which most of us do when we cast spells, and bring it into our present moment using quantum mechanics. We can focus on cultivating a positive mindset, maintaining a belief in the malleability of reality, which that is quantum mechanics. That's the whole point, is they're watching these actions of these subatomic particles, and we're malleablating them. That is not the word.
Wow.
We are
like manipulating.
We are manipulating them. And so, yeah, that can definitely influence our magical practice, our magical endeavors.
Yes. Yes. Now, I was going to talk a little bit about ripples in reality, but I feel like everybody's head is hurting. And it's only like half a page.
I liked some of your ripples and quantum, because that's those rabbit holes that we like to go
Yes, I
down.
do love the rabbit holes. And we talked about ripples in reality when we were talking a little bit about like Mandela effect and time. Yeah.
Time. Yeah.
But maybe this one should be saved for like a quick after dark blurb.
Oh, maybe so. There's some really cool theories about what, if we do manipulate on a quantum level, how does that affect reality?
I do like saving it for a Patreon bonus.
Okay, we'll save it for our Patreons. So our patrons on Patreon. Wow.
On Patreon.
Okay,
Wow.
no more coffee for me. I'm not only jittery, but I'm drunk on top of
yeah,
it.
it's
So
like we're all super hyper and also feeling wacky.
but in conclusion, I think that we witches really are using quantum mechanics on naturally. I think we're just doing it when we practice our craft. But it would be really cool to understand how we do it. Because there are things that I do and I manifest things, but I don't know how does that spell work? Why does that spell work? It just does.
It just
and
does,
so, yeah, I think the reason why is on the science side.
You see, I could see that. We've talked about that before too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry for hurting y'all's heads, but that's all we have.
It just really did fascinate me. I mean, and she is super smart, way, way, way smarter than I am. But
no, don't say that. Nobody's better than anybody.
Well, you understand science a whole lot more than I do. I am not a scientist, but this was fascinating to me because I feel like there's this group of us, we're like, oh, we're witches. And then there's this group of scientists and they're like, oh, we're quantum theorists. And I'm like, I think we're the same.
I think we're both, yeah.
Except for the quantum theorists, I don't think actually think that they can manipulate that with their minds, with their intent, whereas we have always just done it naturally.
Yeah.
Which is just do.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one because I haven't really had a chance to look more into quantum reality or anything physics wise since I've, deviated from it.
She wanted to nerd out, is what she's saying.
I did. And I had a great time.
And we love her for it.
I really like doing this one. Me hurting y'all's head and going,
Yeah, I could see her struggling, trying, because we're on Zoom together. And so she's watching my face and I have this
and I'm
confused look on my face. And she's like, okay, we'll move on. Because...
Yeah, what word can I switch out for that one to make it easier to like understand? Because I do understand not everybody. Yeah.
But it is cool. I mean, to me, the bottom line is it boils down to, I think witchcraft is what they call quantum physics. I think that that is how we cast our spells is on that subatomic level. We're manipulating the energies around us. And I mean, I've said it before. My husband looks at me like I'm nuts when I say it, but
Looney Tunes.
I can feel the energy. I mean, and in different places have different energies and we could just feel it. And I think maybe we are just people that are attuned to the quantum micro level. I don't know. I don't know. You want to do the outro?
Yes, I'll do the outro. So that's all we have. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
If you want to find out more or anything about us, go to www.c3witchypodcast.com. There we have links to all of our social media. That's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever it may be. We also have our links to our Patreon and our Buzzsprout subscriptions. There you'll have some information on our website about what you get in each one. Patreon, you get a little bit extra goodies such as bonus episodes, recipes, my meditations that I do,
which are amazing,
a lot more than all of that. Please consider, like supporting us because it really does help.
We could not continue to do this. I mean, we put a lot of time and we are trying to have real jobs on the side. And so it's very, very
It's very difficult, but I really love doing this. So I wouldn't give
Me
it up for
too.
anything.
So thank
And
you all for supporting
yes.
us,
And
those that do, and listening for those that just listen.
are we also going to announce our new merch?
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
So happy holidays. We wanted to get past Thanksgiving before we put out our Yule, quote, Yule edition of merch. So we each designed a couple of shirts in total. Well, I guess designs because they're a little bit more than shirts. And so that is now available at our website, www.c3witchypodcastmerch.com. Go check us out. I will say I'm having a hard time with the banner, so don't judge the banner when you log in. Our merch is still great, but the banner is not working.
Well, I mean, to tell you, I put up my designs. We each did 3, and I'm like, it's not showing. Fix it. And she's like, it's showing.
It's
I'm like,
showing.
oh.
We each designed a Yule themed shirt or design, I guess, and that's on a various of long sleeve shirt, sweatshirt, hoodie, whatever it may be.
Ornaments, whatever.
And so we have each a Yule themed design, we have an after dark design, and we have just a generic witchy design. So
and I don't know if you put yours on ornaments or not, but I've got one, I think it was the after dark, it might have been the Yule one, that's on an ornament, and I would love the thought of thinking that all of you hung an ornament for C3 Witchy Podcast on your tree. How amazing would that be
so fun
to know that we're in your living room?
Oh, that would be so cute. I love that idea. I'm gonna have to go add one of mine as an ornament.
Did you not put any of yours on?
No, I put a
ornaments?
mug. I put a mug and a sticker on one of my designs because that one's my favorite design. So I decided to add 2 extra things.
I think I have a dog sweater on one of them.
You do have a dog sweater on one of them.
But I didn't do stickers or anything. But we can add more. Let us know if you want.
If you want anything
design, else. These designs that we've done, she did 3, I did 3. They can go on a whole bunch of different products. So just let us know and say, hey, I want that in a notebook. We can do a notebook.
Absolutely. So we hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out our new merch line, and that'll be up through the new year. I think we'll probably take it down probably end of January-ish. So get it while it lasts. And I think that's it.
I think that's it. We'll be back.
We'll be back.
And until then, stay witchy.